Welcome to episode 18 of Two Dudes in a Movie. Before we get into what we watched this week, we have a couple announcements. We now have an Instagram.
Yep.
Which, was it named?
It's Two Dudes in a Movie, just like the title of the podcast. So give us a follow there.
Nice. And we have a YouTube, which is same thing, right?
Yep, same thing. Two Dudes in a Movie. Look out for our logo, which is somewhere. Hold up your book. I've got it right here on the laptop. Yep, little orange videotape with yellow lettering. Mm-hmm. So if you see that is it. Give us a follow. We definitely are going to want some engagement with this episode, the end of this one preferably.
Yeah.
So, and we'll be posting video content. I'm going to try and get a lot of that up this weekend because we've actually been filming ever since our Once Upon a Time in Hollywood episode. So I'm going to try and get everything from then to now up there this weekend.
Sweet. So this is a producer's pick show.
Yeah.
So roughly once a month or so, Paul will have a bigger role in our show. He produces all of our shows, which is incredible. And then he kind of gives us his 2 cents every once in a while throughout the random shows. But this is a movie that Paul really likes. And so this is going to be a producer's pick, and he's going to be a huge part of the show today. And so we're excited about that. So let's dive in. What have you been watching? For me, it's been a lot of TV shows. I've been watching, we finished Last Chance U, and I started a show called QB1. It's another football show.
Oh, I figured worse.
I know. It's football season, y'all. It's football season. And then last night I watched, what's it called? The Hangover with...
nice.
Oh, dude, yeah.
Dude, great movie. It was
It's
really,
an old one.
Really funny.
It feels like it's been out forever.
Never seen it. So.
I love
Really? You've
all
never
three.
seen it?
Never seen it before, yeah.
Yeah, the other two
it's pretty good. It was one of the weirdest setups for a movie I've ever seen. As far as just like, they literally wake up and you're just like, what is happening? And then obviously it just gets weirder and weirder and weirder the whole movie. Because it's the point when Ken Jeong like jumps out of the thing and like just runs through the desert naked and you're like...
And he actually did that. Like that was not
legit, just like...
fake or any of that.
And then they're just like, well... That's not the weirdest thing that's happened today. And they just start talking about like what's next, and it's like, you guys aren't gonna talk about this. What just happened?
That movie was so popular at school whenever it came out.
It's pretty funny, dude. I laughed out loud several times.
I love those movies.
It was good. I haven't seen the other two, obviously, but I want to now because I love Zach Galifianakis, dude. I love Zach Galifianakis. He's
coming out in a movie as Between Two Ferns movie.
I love
They're doing a movie.
Between Two Ferns.
Have you seen the video? Like, it's a YouTube thing.
Those videos are so great. My favorite one ever is the one with Hillary Clinton. Have you seen that one?
Yes.
He has like a Trump ad in the middle of the episode.
Dude,
he's so funny. And then at the very end of the show, he looks at her and says, "This has been fun. What's the best way to get you back on?" Email. And she just like looks at the camera and she's like, can we be done? And he just like looks and like grins and then it just goes to black. It was so funny. Dude, him and Bradley Cooper together was really good. I didn't care for the other guy,
Ed Helms.
He's funny. You mean
Andy?
Funny,
you didn't
dude.
like Andy?
I like Andy.
Boo.
Just compared to the other two, he wasn't.
Yeah,
he was okay.
He was the annoying.
He was the annoying like stress ball friend, and he played that role really well. I just think the other two guys were. And
Riley from National Treasure's in it. That's his name.
Yeah,
National
Doug.
Treasure?
He's not in it very much, but he's like the friend who gets
He's
lost.
the guy they got to find.
I love when they found like the black Doug, and he like jumps out of the car. He's like, "I'll be your Doug."
I'll be your Doug. And it's
so
Mike Epps.
And then at one point, Zach Galifianakis like, "We're going to do this black guy." He's like, "Hey, come on, man. Come on, man. And he just like kept saying like, "Come on, man."
Is that all you've been watching?
That's all I've watched. Yeah, football season started this week, so I've only had a little bit of time.
No
the
excuses.
little time I've had watching is watching football shows.
Excuses.
QB1's pretty good. I actually like that show more than I thought I would.
What's it on?
But Netflix.
Oh, okay.
It's about these high school guys who are getting recruited by big colleges, and it's like their senior year of high school, and they're like getting followed around by a camera crew. So it's pretty interesting because it's like high school kids, and they're like punk 18-year-old dudes, and
a bunch of turds.
Yeah, it's pretty good then. What you been watching?
Me, I have a little list here. So I watched another. I mean, obviously, if you're watching this, you can see this episode is about the Matrix. So I watched another Keanu Reeves movie. I watched John Wick 2.
Mm-hmm.
Wait.
That's funny. I watched John Wick 3 last night.
Really? Have you
So-
seen the other two?
Yeah.
All right, yeah. Oh, I mean, of course you have if you're watching the
Well,
third
yeah,
one. But man, those movies are just fun action movies.
love
God,
them.
they're so good. Like
Have you seen any of them?
I have not seen any John Wick.
Okay.
I'm not going to go into too many details because
want
you
to.
need to watch
Yeah,
I
them.
would
do.
definitely want to.
But man, the plot in it, everyone makes it out to be more simple than it actually is.
The
I
second
think.
one?
Like just the plot as a whole.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because they're like, oh, it's just the because like I'm sure everyone's heard it. Oh, you killed John Wick's dog. Be careful or
Yeah.
whatever. And
Killed his
it's like,
dog and stole his car. Like,
Yeah.
they think that's the only thing.
Yeah, there's more meaning to that than what it actually is. And then once they dive into actually like his profession and stuff in the second movie, like that's when it starts to get pretty interesting. And that's why I haven't seen the third one yet. So
Man.
I'm excited to see because they ended the second one awesomely. Like
And it picks up right at the end of 2.
really,
Yep.
that's exciting. Those are some good, just fun. The action in them is great.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at those, yes, they do have a great story, but I love to just sit down and watch an action movie where he just like, when a guy gets killed and you go, oh, I
Yeah.
love, I don't know, I just love those type of movies
Yeah.
for something different. I mean, I love all the, super in-depth dramas and everything, but yeah, so just to piggyback a little bit and then I'll let you finish. Yeah,
Yeah.
John Wick 3 was one I watched, and it's just it actually has, I would say, more action than
Really?
the other movies.
That's the one that just came out.
It just can't, I think it,
Parabellum.
yeah,
is what it's called.
Parabellum, which is an interesting title that you're like, what does this even mean? And it's actually Latin for prepare for war.
Yeah.
And I was like, that just is so cool. But yeah, great movies. I highly recommend them if you haven't watched them. AJ.
No, I definitely want to.
I know you do, but so
And they're
all right.
they're pretty
Luke
short
talks-
too, which is nice.
Luke's talking
Yeah,
about
they
those a lot.
actually are. They're roughly. This one was a little longer. Was like 2 hours and 15, but the other ones are like an hour 45.
Yeah.
Are they the same vein as like Jack Reacher, Taken, The Equalizer, like that kind of movie?
I'd
Is
say
it
they're.
sort of?
I'd
They're
say
all-
they're. I think they're better than those.
but they're similar type of movie.
Sort of, but they're more ramped up. I would say.
like people call him. I love his
So,
nickname, the Boogeyman.
Yeah.
Like that's awesome.
So he's like a Jason Bourne kind of guy, a little bit.
He's an assassin.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
yeah,
You-
I'll let you borrow the first
You just
one.
need to watch.
No,
them,
it sounds
yeah.
cool. I like those kinds of movies. I like the Jack Reacher stuff. I like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
all right, go ahead,
Next
Luke.
thing I watched all of The Boys. The
Oh, yeah.
Amazon original where it's like superheroes and then Carl Urban is somewhat of the main character, and it's basically superhero. It's like what if superheroes were actually real and what if they were, corporatized and stuff and all that. Like, and Carl Urban's character is basically he's like a superhero killer basically, and he has a vendetta against a certain one of them and stuff. And it's a very good series. It's graphic. You see a lot of blood. They don't hold back on anything, but it's a very cool take on superheroes. Like, what if they were just all jerks?
Yeah, I've heard it's good. I haven't started it yet, but it's on my list.
I watched it in 2 days. It's 8 episodes, 45 minutes to an hour an episode, and it's pretty stinking good because like you have the main superhero guy named Homelander who's basically Superman, and like I said, everyone's jerks, and it's just like how do you deal with this Superman jerk, because they all put off this persona. Like they're all like he's a Captain America, Superman kind of guy. Like you're all gonna be fine, but then he like turns around a corner and he's like instantly just like the sociopath. Like it's good.
Interesting.
So I watched all that. Highly recommend it. I watched Office Space for the first time.
First time.
Yeah, that movie was so funny.
Have you ever seen it? Oh, dude.
I've never even heard of that one.
Office Space. It's it's your thing. Go ahead, Luke.
No, you helped me because I just watched it. You've probably seen it multiple
It's
times.
from
Help me out.
it's either late 90s or early 2000s. I can't remember.
It's late 90s.
Okay, that's what I was leaning towards. But it's this guy who works for this. I don't think they ever say the company name.
It's
Or if it is, it's not
Initech
like.
or something like that.
Oh yeah, but it's not like a company you've heard, like a real company. But it's a guy who's kind of in a dead end job, and I just love the part where he just just starts to not care anymore. And I don't want to spoil anything, but it's just one of my favorite parts. And me and some of my buddies recreated this for a photography project in high school. There's a part where they take a printer out into a field and just beat it into a pulp with a bat, because they, like, from the very beginning of the movie, they're like, this stinking printer won't print anything, it always jams and it blah blah blah. And so they just take it out and just demolish it. And so
they have that like rap track playing behind them, and it's like they all look so serious.
It's so funny because the movie starts and it's the main character in his car, and you just hear this rap beat, and it's, damn, it feels good to be a gangster. And I'm just like, what is going on in this movie? Like, it's
Milton. He's awesome. So funny.
Oh, like, yeah.
I'm gonna burn this place down.
No, this for you, it sounds so crazy, and it's just a hilarious.
It sounds great. I love those kinds of movies, man.
Because they treat the Milton character. He's one of the side characters. He's kind of like the guy in the office everyone likes to mess with.
Yeah.
Like, just kind of be a jerk to, because he's kind of weird and everything, and everyone's a jerk to him, and he always he kind of like mumbles all the time to himself. Yeah. And
this is my stapler.
Yeah.
Dude,
it sounds good.
They keep asking him to move his desk to different places around the office.
Did you buy it, or did you?
It was in the $5 bin at Walmart. I was looking to try and find The Matrix.
Classic.
And I was like, all right, everyone says it's so funny. It's a few of my friends' favorite comedy movie of all time, and so I'm like, I'll watch it for $5.
It's
and
awesome.
It was definitely worth it. It was so good.
Awesome.
After Office Space, I watched Idiocracy for the first time.
I don't know that.
You guys never seen that one? All right, so it's Luke Wilson, and basically, so this movie's been getting referenced a lot, especially in our like current like political climate and everything. So what it is he is just like an underachiever in the military. He works in the library, and like he likes working there because nobody ever comes. And they want to put they're gonna do tests like humans, like keeping them in these capsules and making them survive till whatever. And so he gets put in this capsule. Some stuff happens. He wakes up 5 years later, and he is now currently the smartest man in the world because everyone else are just idiots.
Whoa.
Like, the whole thing is they do a chain at the beginning. It's basically smart people weren't reproducing, and the dumb people were, like the rednecks and all the hillbillies and stuff were reproducing more. So eventually all the smart people like became very minimal and still eventually disappeared, and all the dumb people came, basically the population. So he wakes up 500 years later. He's the smartest guy in the world, and he has to try and like kind of save their time and do all this and whatnot. So it's a extremely goofy movie, but it's short, it's funny. It's one that gets referenced a lot because a lot of people are like talking like, oh, we're living in Idiocracy, where they're like, the movie Idiocracy was actually a documentary, and
oh man.
So it's I feel like it's somewhat of a staple in a lot of people's just like it's one you need to watch. You don't have to like it. You can like it. You don't have to like it. But I feel like it's one that people need to see because how much it gets referenced.
Interesting.
That's why I pretty much watch this, because I hear so much about it. People reference this, and I'm like, I need to watch it.
Interesting.
Cool. They literally they're so dumb. They're like, why is there no crops? There's no greenery. They're like, because they water everything with Gatorade. Because they're like, it has electrolytes.
That's awesome.
That's great.
That's a little piece that I'll give you.
Yeah. Dude.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
I also I'm rewatching the animated Batman series.
Cool.
And so that's the last thing. I love that series.
Great series.
It's awesome because something I like about it is you get a lot more Joker in that. Like and nowadays we don't get a lot of Joker and stuff. And I read the comics and we don't even get much in that. Like I read the detective comics. And you rarely hear anything about the Joker. And so it's cool to see more of that, especially since he's voiced by Mark Hamill and all that. Like I'm glad I'm rewatching it. So what have you watched anything recently?
Yeah, so well, obviously just watched John Wick 3. And then not too long ago, it's funny, right around Independence Day, I told my wife we need to watch Independence Day because she's never seen it, and I love that movie. But we just ended up watching it like last week. We kind of let it fall by the wayside, but that's one of, even though it's like 3 hours long.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite.
It's a great movie.
Will Smith's first movie.
It's a great movie.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
And then, so to pitch a little bit of another podcast that I actually binged, believe it or not, was actually the Ron Burgundy podcast.
Oh, really?
I don't know if you're familiar with
I've heard
Anchorman.
I heard about this, yeah.
It's if you're not a fan of the movies, don't listen to the podcast because it's the same thing.
Oh no, I follow it. Yeah, I've listened to the first few episodes.
I think it's hilarious. But biggest thing I actually, surprisingly, with Independence Day and watched a ton of sci-fi movies this week. Watched WALL-E for the first time.
Sweet. What'd you think?
I actually really liked it. I love Pixar movies, but it was so funny because the other one, the big one that I watched this week was Interstellar. And after watching WALL-E, after watching Interstellar, I was like, huh, there are like some weird like
parallels.
things, like parallels. I was like, oh, okay, whatever. But the message of WALL-E just cracks me up because it's, people from Earth have just gotten so fat and living on a cruise ship where you sit in chairs that you don't do anything. I'm like, oh man.
It's crazy because you notice in the background one of the shots is like they've actually increased life expectancy. Like people are living for over 100 years and stuff. But like it's a cool movie.
But the big one, was Interstellar, and
Great movie.
don't want to go too deep into that because I know you guys did an episode about it. I may do like a little 10-minute producer episode or something where I thought about that to throw in my 2 cents on it, but I loved it. Like, it's
awesome.
It was,
great.
I would
Great
say Chris Nolan's best movie. I think without, even better than Batman movies. I really do think it's
Better
his
than
best.
The Prestige and better than
in my opinion,
great
I would
movie.
say
I
it
can
is.
think that's the thing with some of his movies is like they're all pretty good. And so it's like I don't think any of, depending on who you are, any of them could be your favorite.
But I
love that movie. Great movie. I think it's Matthew McConaughey's best movie.
I would probably agree. I just love how it started off real slow, and you really had no clue what was going on. All of the Dust Bowl stuff, and then that he drives just a regular old truck, and I loved that stuff. And then it just like goes from 0 to 100 real quick, and I'm like, it's
Welcome
great.
to space.
Right. But and I listened to the episode that you guys did, and I agreed with everything you said. I haven't actually listened to the soundtrack by itself, but I loved it in the movie, the moment.
It's so good.
So
yeah, it's so good. Great movie.
Yeah,
great
totally.
movie.
Oh, so you guys want to move into our top fives?
Yeah,
or is that all? Are you done?
Yeah, that was it for me.
Okay.
That was it.
Top five. So this week we did, since we're doing The Matrix, we did top 5 sci-fi movies, which for me at first, like I'm the one that recommended it. It sounded a lot harder than what I think it would ended up being for me, at least personally. Like I was able to, like I said before we started, I was able to jot this down in like 5 minutes. It was no problem. But AJ, let's start with you. Do you guys want to run through them all? Do you want to do all of our honorable mentions real quick?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for my honorable mentions, I have Pacific Rim, the first one.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
I can dig it.
My brother went and saw it first, and he was like, "You got to watch this movie," and he like pitched it to me. I was like, "That sounds like the dumbest thing I've ever heard." And I went and watched, and it was like
All the kaiju,
awesome.
and the giant robots.
Love that movie. Number 2 on my honorable mention list is Rogue One. I love Rogue One. Great movie. And then my third one is called Source Code with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh, yeah.
It's a weird, super
is-
underrated movie.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like Groundhog Day, kind of like The Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Kind of premise where he has to relive the same moment over and over and over until he figures out. Basically, the government has figured out a way to send people back in time and relive the same moment until they can figure out how to stop the bomb or how to stop whatever terrorist attack. And Jake Gyllenhaal's a part of that program, and so he has to keep reliving this. There's a train that's going into downtown Chicago, and it has a bomb on it, and he has to figure out how to stop the bomb. And it's called Source Code, and the whole program is called Source Code. And then by the end of the movie, you start realizing why it keeps happening and everything.
Yeah.
It is a great movie. I love that movie. So that's my honorable mention list.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll go. I have 5. So first one is Iron Giant, the animated movie.
Great movie.
Yeah.
Diesel.
Great movie.
Yep.
I forgot Vin Diesel's in there.
That's
And Jennifer Aniston, I think, is one of the voices.
I think so. I think you're right.
Anyway.
It's a great movie.
That's one of my favorite animated movies of all time, along with like I did Treasure Planet and stuff. I
Yeah. Love
that's
Treasure
honestly
Planet.
one of them. Star Wars as a whole is one of my honorable mentions. It's just all Star Wars pretty much.
Yep.
Something about my list is like the whole thing with sci-fi movies specifically is like how well do they build this world that we're like living in for this movie.
Okay.
So that for me, that's a lot what went into my sci-fi list. Jurassic Park is one of my honorable mentions.
Yeah.
Cool.
Interstellar and The Martian are my last two.
Honorable mentions. I thought
okay.
you'd have The Martian higher because you love that
I thought
movie.
so too, but then I sat down and just kind of looked at all of the sci-fi movies I've seen. I was like, there's some that I think I like more.
Yeah.
Sweet. Paul?
All right. So the way I kind of did this was I excluded intentionally a lot of like the sci-fi fantasy, like Star Wars and Star Trek. Like
Yeah.
I could have easily made a top 10 out of all of those. So I tried to exclude some of those. So my honorable mentions are War of the Worlds, the
Nice.
one with Tom Cruise.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Jurassic Park also, and then I, Robot
Oh yeah,
Great movie.
with Will Smith.
Great
That's
movie.
my honorable
I can
mentions.
appreciate
Great
that.
movie. So you guys want to go 5-1 real quick and then talk about it all at the same time?
You guys just want to go 5, then 4, then 3,
Yeah.
then 2. We'll
Sure.
do it real quick, and then we'll talk about them all.
So I was going to do what y'all did and exclude Star Wars, but I couldn't do it. So
That's fine.
episode number 4 is my number 5 on
Okay.
my
Okay.
sci-fi list.
Okay.
Episode 4, the original.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then Luke, yeah.
my number 5 is Serenity.
Mm-hmm.
The Firefly
movie. Yep.
Yeah, that's some good stuff.
Yep. My number 5 is Pacific Rim.
Dude, I'm glad you put that on there. I love that movie. Have you seen the
So
second
good.
one?
I have not,
I haven't
and I've
either.
heard that it's
I heard it wasn't
not
great.
so great.
Yeah,
so
I heard it wasn't great.
I'm waiting a little bit.
Number 4 for me is The Martian. Love this movie. I thought it was the most realistic sci-fi movie,
Yeah.
possibly ever. It's just
Yeah.
it's a really great. Like they did such a great job of making it all feel realistic, which I guess hypothetically it could be realistic. So
Yeah, if
great movie.
the guy who owns Tesla, Elon Musk, if his
Yeah.
plans work out, it could be real.
That's where we're going.
I went and read the book after I watched it, and it was a great book. So I love that movie. Number 4 for me. Yeah,
Number 4 for me is the movie Her.
I heard about that one.
With Joaquin Phoenix.
I
Yep.
haven't watched it.
Interesting. I haven't either.
That one seems like it's like a realistic kind of like distant future kind of thing.
Okay.
And he falls in love with an AI because everyone
Yeah.
has this. It's a
And it's Scarlett Johansson, if I'm not mistaken. Is
think so, yeah. So it's I'll talk about it here in a little bit, but yeah, that's my number 4.
okay. My number 4 is a movie called Pitch Black. That I'm sure neither one of you.
I don't think I've heard of that
It's
one.
an early Vin Diesel movie, and so we're talking about like details later. Or you want me to go into
Yeah.
it? Okay. Yeah. So that's my number 4.
Number 3 for me is Inception.
Nice.
Love this movie. I didn't really know how to qualify it, if it was sci-fi or not. I think it is because like he goes in like the dreams and stuff. But love that movie. So good.
Yeah.
My number 3 is Men in Black.
Yeah.
The first one.
Yeah,
Or all of them?
the first one.
The first one. First one's the best one for sure.
I like the movies where it's like you're in like real world times and stuff, but then there's like this element to it that's a little crazy, and that's the reason I put that one in there.
Yeah. That was on my initial list, but it got pushed out. So,
Solid.
and then we're on 3, right? Interstellar.
Nice.
Is
Nice.
my number 3.
Made your list pretty high too.
Yeah, and pretty quickly too. Like
Yeah.
I feel like we discussed about doing this like not too long after I watched, and I was like, oh yeah, this has to be in there.
Number 2 for me is Episode 3. Star Wars Episode 3. Love that movie. I will defend that movie forever for all you haters out there. So
There's a bunch of them.
there's a bunch. Number
There's
2.
a bunch in this room too.
Number 2
Yeah.
for me is Back to the Future, the first one.
Okay,
Nice,
yeah.
nice.
I think it's a
Nice.
staple sci-fi movie.
Great movie.
Nice.
Great movie. Number 2 for me is Terminator 2: Judgment Day.
Interesting.
I love that movie.
That's is it either that one or the first one has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes?
I think it's probably that one.
That one.
Because most everybody you talk to about Terminator movies is going to talk about Terminator 2.
Because 1 and 2 both were like, one was very high 90s and then one was 100%.
One was, yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, 2 is way better in my opinion.
So-
But 1 is also good.
I saw that and I was like, I'm buying the collector's edition because I
Never
haven't seen these.
those movies,
but
dude. I need to watch them.
I probably would have told you to just buy 1 and 2, but
Well-
knowing the rest of the story is not bad.
well, it's
The
like
rest of the movies are not that great.
it's cheaper. Like after I did my research and stuff, it's cheaper for me to just buy this collector's edition on Amazon
that's
for
probably true.
$24 than just buy both individually, or else it's like $5 more. I was like,
That's-
why not?
that's probably
I'll
true.
get the rest of the movies while I'm at it.
So
Number one?
Number one for
one.
me is Interstellar. I love Interstellar. I think it was in top 3, top 4 movies for me all time, regardless of genre.
Yeah.
I love that movie. I think it's hard to say if it's Chris Nolan's best movie or not. I think I would give the nod to Prestige just slightly, but it is awesome. Greatest sci-fi movie ever, in my humble opinion.
Yep.
For me, it's Blade Runner 2049.
I thought you were going to say that one because you've been talking about that one.
Yeah, you've
Literally,
been
it feels
talking
like
about
for
that
like
one.
4 weeks you've been talking about
It's
that
crazy
one, so.
too, and it's like literally jumped to the top of my
Well, you
list.
just
That's
watched
awesome.
it like a month ago. Yeah.
Something like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I got to watch that movie.
It's legit.
All right, my number one is my number 2 favorite movie of all time, only edged out by Endgame, is this movie that we're talking about.
The
today.
Matrix.
That's number one?
The Matrix is number one.
Nice. So number one is Endgame, and then number 2 is Matrix.
Yep.
I guess Endgame could technically be a sci-fi movie.
Yeah, but see, again, I was trying to, getting away from
I didn't
those.
think about Marvel at all for my sci-fi list.
But
But
do you guys got any questions for each
Yeah.
other's list?
Matrix number 1, man. I
Matrix
figured
number
you would go
one.
with that because you love the Matrix.
Totally.
That's why we're doing it. But I think I honestly, the only thing like I didn't see coming were the movies you guys said that I hadn't seen before, but everything else I thought was pretty standard for y'all.
How many on my list have you not seen? Her, Serenity, and Blade Runner?
Yes, but I'm familiar with all of them.
Yeah.
I've just never seen them. I'm not familiar with the one that Paul mentioned.
Yeah, that's probably the only one I may give a little bit of pitch to, and it ironically called Pitch Black. But so it's an interesting, very, very basic movie, and it's Vin Diesel is actually like a criminal in space, and they are. I gotta remember because there's been 2 or 3 other movies that all kind of run together for
Is
me.
this before Chronicles of Riddick?
Yes, this is
Okay.
the movie before that, but it's the same character.
It's a part of
Okay.
the same series.
Start part of the same series, yeah. But it's kind of like a sci-fi horror movie. But he's got his eyes are like burned or something or other, and he has like a weird night vision thing.
Yeah.
And I believe they're transporting him to a prison. A group of bounty hunters has captured him and transporting him to a prison, and they have to land on this planet that they don't know is overrun with monster aliens. And it's super scary because the monsters only come out at night, and when they first land, it's day for a long time, and then the rest of the time it's night. Like the day hours are really screwy on this planet, and they're attracted to sound, so they have to try and get back to their ship quietly, and without light, it's really interesting.
Huh.
So I'm not explaining it very well.
No, it
I
sounds
would
cool.
recommend going and watching like a trailer or
I
something.
need to watch it because
That
I've
sounds really
seen
cool.
Chronicles of Riddick and stuff. It's
Yeah.
just I haven't seen this one yet, so.
Yeah, it's the same universe, just
Yeah.
before.
Yeah, so I've obviously seen the sequels then.
Yeah. But I mean, if you like the sequels, you probably will like this because again, it's the same character, but it's more of a horror movie than these recent ones are.
Yeah, they're kind of scary. Yeah.
That sounds awesome. One that I thought I had on my list and I knocked it off because I didn't want to have too many honorable mentions was called Chappie. Have you guys seen that movie?
Is that the?
It's the robot.
It's the one with the robot and he gets raised by like
and he
not
gets,
great people.
He gets raised by like the drug dealers.
I haven't
and, like,
seen
gang
Oh
it.
members.
no, I haven't seen that one.
I read the Wikipedia and then like I read a few reviews and I was just like, I don't think I want to watch it.
I thought the same thing. I had like a bunch of free time one week. I don't know, last summer, but I watched it and dude, it was awesome. I thought it was really great. I thought about putting that on here, but that's probably the most out there sci-fi movie that I've seen that I actually like really liked. But yeah, so like there's a robot and he like is basically a baby because he doesn't know anything. He doesn't know how to walk, how to talk, how to think, and he gets found by these like terrible people who actually have to like become better people in order to raise him, basically. And it's a really trippy movie, but I don't want to talk about it too much. Hugh Jackman's in it. I'm 99% sure. But
Okay, that's why I thought you like when you first said it. I was like, "Is that the movie where they like are boxing robots?"
no. I like that one too. Real Steel.
Yeah.
I like that
I
one.
thought that's what you were.
No.
talking about. I was like,
Chappie's different.
Okay.
But Hugh Jackman is the bad guy in Chappie.
Yeah, let me look it up.
That's
think.
funny.
I'm pretty sure. But yeah, I forgot about Real Steel. I actually liked that movie. It wasn't. I mean, it's not-
Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
It's not a good movie,
Basically.
but it's literally like the video or like the old The old toy that people had back in the day.
Rock'em Sock'em
Yeah.
Robots.
Hugh Jackman's in it. Sigourney Weaver's in it.
Yeah.
Oh.
This is a good movie.
Anderson Cooper's in it.
It's set in like South
That's
Africa,
interesting.
and so all of their accents are like
Super weird.
stupid, and I can't understand what
Yeah.
they're saying. But that's a good movie.
My friend.
Mhm,
Yep,
Yeah.
it's really interesting.
But yeah, I thought those were pretty good top 5 lists right there.
Yeah.
Jurassic Park's good. Back
Yeah.
to the Future's good.
I was
Terminator's
surprised
awesome.
Her
Yeah.
made it on mine.
That may be another producer pick that we do is Terminator 2.
I need to watch Terminator.
Yeah. Which is weird because I've seen like the more recent Terminator movies, but I haven't seen the old ones. And
Dude, Terminator 2 is the best. Undoubtedly is the best Terminator movie.
Well, shall we get into Paul's number 1 movie?
Yeah.
yes,
do it.
Let's
we
do it.
shall.
So, do you want to give us a little bit of a rundown, or do we just want to jump in?
No, I'll give some details like we've done with the other
Okay.
movies.
Yeah,
Go for it. I want to see how much money it made. I don't have any
So,
idea.
yeah.
It made a lot.
It made a lot. So I'm going to give just a brief synopsis that I found to not go into too many details. A computer hacker learns from mysterious rebels about the true nature of his reality and his role in the war against its controllers. Very high overview synopsis. This movie came out in 1999, and that's part of the reason we're doing it is because this is the 20th anniversary. And
So like the end of the month, I think, is its 20th anniversary, or is it?
I think the anniversary has already happened, but
it?
I think that
When
like,
is it in the theater?
I think next week.
It's at the end of the month.
I
Yeah.
might go with y'all if y'all
Yeah.
want to go.
I want to go.
I definitely want to go. So the main actors are Keanu Reeves, Lawrence Fishburne, Carrie Ann Moss are the good guys, and then Hugo Weaving plays Agent Smith.
Great actor.
Great
I
group.
love Hugo Weaving.
The directors, and I'm not going to get into the controversy over them, but at the time were called the Wachowski brothers.
Yep.
They both have now had transformations and are now the Wachowski sisters. But they have one of them is already confirmed doing Matrix 4 with Keanu Reeves and Carrie Ann Moss.
Yep.
So I'm very excited about that. So here's budget. Or actually, let's go into the ratings first. Rotten Tomatoes gave this an 88%.
Dang.
Metacritic 73, IMDb 8.7 out of 10.
Dang. So Metacritic is
Metacritic's
by
a little,
far the lowest.
A little low, yeah. Budget for this movie. All right, so the budget was $63 million, and it made $463 million,
Woo!
Dang.
Which is a lot for that
which is
time.
a lot
for
of
the
money for
90s.
1999.
Yep.
No doubt. No doubt.
So a couple other notes I have on this is kind of an interesting note, but when I read it, I was like, I have to put this in there. It broke the record for the biggest Easter weekend opening movie.
Wow.
Apparently, it came out on Easter weekend of 1999.
That's crazy.
I guess
And
nobody puts out movies in the spring. So
apparently
that kinda
not.
makes
But
sense.
I just thought, I was like, that's a really interesting stat that somebody
Yeah.
kept track of. But anyway,
That's funny.
other cool thing about it that I didn't know is it actually won 4 Oscars for film editing, sound effect editing, and visual effect editing. Because I don't know if you guys have watched any of the special features on this, but one of the things that they created from this movie that has become huge, and you've seen it in tons of other movies, you just may not know what it was. It's called bullet time, and it's like when he does the whole like
Slow motion,
yeah,
sci-fi.
and it's
Yep.
all still shots on a big truss, and I like that they do it
People use it all the
4
time.
or 5 times in this movie. I think it's 4.
Yeah.
people use
But
it all
yeah,
the time.
that's
Well, it's one of
they
like the
developed
most
that for
referenced
this.
scenes like
Yeah.
ever too. Like people reference that
People still
all
like
the
move
time.
out of the way of something.
Yeah,
like,
they're
in
always like,
slow
"Oh,
motion,"
Matrix.
and they're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
yeah."
Yeah. But
People
so,
still do that all the time.
One of the like, we'll get more into the cinematic elements, but makes sense to me why they won all these Oscars.
For sure. Yeah. 100%.
Well, it's so revolutionary to come out at that time. Like
yeah.
nobody was doing anything like this at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Star Wars was probably the closest, but even then they weren't doing stuff like that.
Well,
Like that.
Phantom Menace came out after this movie.
Yeah, so even like the new stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, idea / premise. I gave it a 10 out of 10.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's so original.
I'm glad you like this movie.
So
I was
interesting.
actually iffy if you were going to like this movie.
I liked it more than I thought I would.
Cool.
Not as much as y'all two. Not nowhere near as much as you. But I did like it, and I did appreciate it. And I think
Cool.
I the more I thought about it, the more I liked it.
Did you like it while you were watching it? Because we watched it together.
Oh yeah.
And this isn't the first time I've seen this movie before, but the whole time he was watching, I was like, oh no, I think AJ hates it.
I was very frustrated in several different moments.
That's funny. I'll mention.
And I was very tired, so give me grace.
Okay.
But I was very sleepy that night, and it was very late. But for the idea premise, I gave it a 10 out of 10. I think it was super cool, super interesting, original, creative. Just as far as a setup goes, this is what you want. You want an idea that has legs and that can go in any direction, that has a really solid vision. I thought they did a great job with the idea and the premise.
Well, it's one where it's like, it makes you wonder, like, obviously it's not real, but it makes you wonder about your real life.
It
like,
does.
Am I living in the Matrix?
Well, and it's kind of got that...
it totally does.
That Truman Show
Yep.
kind of question
brother thing.
hanging over you the whole time. Yeah.
And it was definitely, because the last time I'd seen this movie had probably been 10 years ago, and I was 13, and so this movie is, now looking back, I'm like, when I was 13, I was like, oh my god, this is so complicated. But then watching it now, I'm like, that's not that complicated, I get it.
Right.
But like, it's extremely, like, to me it seemed very simple, but very just like, man, that's just a crazy question.
Yep.
And it's a cool concept.
And it gets more. I'm glad you said you want to watch this second time.
I do want to watch it.
The more you watch it, the more you notice and the more you get into it. Because I've seen this movie, if I had to guess, probably close to 300 or 400 times.
300-400?
Yeah. I used to watch this movie all the time.
That's insane.
And so, and like all of them, like
That's
all
crazy.
3 of them, there were games that I played all the time.
Yep. I played the Matrix
I remember
games.
the games, yeah.
So like, and I know that sounds insane,
That
but
is
that's
insane.
probably not an exaggeration.
I'm trying to think
So-
of what I've seen the most, and it's probably Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, but it's nowhere near that number. That's
but
awesome.
So like,
No,
this,
I'm with you. I think for me, I definitely want to rewatch it. The rewatchability is so high because it's so trippy, and there's so many cool and interesting things happening all the time. For me, this was the strongest section of my 5 sections. Was the idea / premise.
I could see that.
I think it was executed well. I just think for me, there were elements missing, which we'll talk about as we get down. Which I'm interested to hear your thoughts, because you're gonna probably have really high scores, but which is great. So for me, the idea and the premise was what carried the movie more than anything else. Like, Keanu Reeves is cool; he's a cool actor and he's a good dude. But like, for me, the idea was what sold me personally on watching it and then actually enjoying it enough to want to watch it again and talk about it.
We're being not controlled, but put into this like state by AI, and there's the
I
chosen one or whatever. And
I thought that was so cool. And then the cuts between the real world and the Matrix, and back and forth and back and forth. I thought that was really cool. I thought that was really, really cool. So we all agree, 10 out of 10?
I give it a 10.
Okay.
10 out of 10.
Characters. For me, it was Neo, Morpheus, and then Agent Smith. I thought was probably the third-ish main character.
So
and
yeah,
then I kind of lumped everybody else together in a kind of a 4th section. I guess Trinity's up there somewhere.
So yeah, I have how many? I have 6 characters that I want to talk about.
Cypher's probably one of them.
So Neo, Morpheus. I do have Trinity. I mean, this is not in order. This is how I broke them up. But Neo, Morpheus, Trinity. And then I lumped the other crew into one, being APOC, Switch, Cypher, Tank, Dozer, and Mouse.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I do want to talk about the Oracle
Okay.
a little bit, and Agent Smith.
Agent Smith was awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Loved him. I loved Morpheus. Neo for me he was okay. I don't know why he wasn't a great hero for me, as far as he wasn't as dynamic as some main characters are. The side characters were solid, I thought. But for me, Morpheus carried it, and then I think Agent Smith.
Morpheus carried it for you.
I loved Morpheus. I thought he was awesome, which I love those kinds of characters in movies, like the Gandalf, the Yoda, like the wise mentor characters.
Yeah.
I love those kinds of characters anyway, and so I was I'm kind of biased that direction. And then obviously I loved Agent Smith. I thought he was awesome. Every time he was on screen, I thought it was really.
Well, he's so
interesting.
intimidating
so
too.
Good.
Totally.
This is my lowest section. I gave it a 6.
I gave it a 6 as well.
But like, because to me there wasn't like, I get the stories. I like Neo. I like the main 3 cast, but there wasn't a whole lot of character development besides, Neo realizing that who he is and all that. For me, I didn't see a lot of it. Just, I don't know why, but I think the characters were the most simple point in the movie for me.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know what Paul's going to say, but I think for me, the idea and the premise was so lofty and so solid that they were like, well, gosh, we can't really do a whole lot with the characters compared to, like, I don't know, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where the idea is not the greatest part about the movie. The characters are, and so they focus on the characters.
Yeah.
So then they kind of reverse that a little bit in this movie. And I think Neo is interesting simply because of his role as, like, that Messiah figure, like the Anakin Skywalker chosen one figure. But I don't know. Like, I agree with Luke. I think he was a little bit boring. I thought Trinity was forced. I thought that was kind of a weird, forced, like, love interest kind of thing. But I do agree.
More than that. But when we get to plot, I'll talk about that more.
But I definitely loved Morpheus for sure. I love Lawrence Fishburne. He's awesome. And then I loved Agent Smith. What do you think? I'm interested to hear your thoughts.
Okay, so first
I liked
of all,
Cypher. I thought he was interesting.
Yeah.
As the kind of the
weird middle bad guy.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to preface this with saying I probably have everything scored higher than you think. So don't overjudge me. Again,
great.
This is my number 2 movie.
50 out of 50.
People on Instagram, don't kill me.
No, that's great.
So yes, I gave this section a 10 out of 10. And again, I think once you watch it again, maybe you might. But
yeah, for sure.
You don't have to. Like, so with the Neo thing, like, yes, he is a very basic guy starting off.
I think he's almost too passive for me as a hero.
Yeah,
I don't know, but that's definitely part of his character. I agree. I can see that side of it, that it is part of his character.
Yeah, that's kind of the point, because it goes back to the whole the big overarching thing with this whole movie is choice.
Right.
It's what you choose.
The red
to
pill,
be.
the blue pill.
It's the choice, even the choice of being the one.
Being the one, and not
he made that choice.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's where I think, and because at certain points he's just like, oh, I'm just another guy. I'm not important. So he doesn't feel like the hero that everybody says he should be and is.
That's true.
So that's how I look at that character. Morpheus, I mean, obviously super, super good. Super great. We talked about him. Trinity, I do agree, is kind of a weird, but again, it's all the whole choice thing.
It's part of the prophecy for her.
Yeah, and the prophecy of her the oracle
loving
telling her that So
I just didn't know. I didn't really see there was no they flirted here and then they had like a really cool moment here,
right?
And now they're like in love. It just kind of felt like I
don't know. She hung out with him.
They hung out a little
while he was sleeping or whatever. Like he brought her food or brought him food.
Yeah.
So she
that's true. She does take care. She does take care of him.
Yeah. And again, it's that choice thing. She chooses not to show that, even though, because even at the very beginning of the movie, she's watching him.
Mm-hmm. Well, and she's the one who finds him.
She's
at the
the
very
one who
beginning.
finds him. Yeah, and because even from that point, it's not really said, but you can gather that even from the point of, because at the beginning, Cypher says, "Oh, you're watching him again, huh?" Mm-hmm. She loves him from that point.
See, I didn't catch that the first time, but thinking about it now, that makes sense.
So she chooses to again kind of let you have your own destiny. I'm not going to say, "Oh, I love you," until you're the chosen one.
Therefore, you're the chosen one. That makes sense.
So that's how I see her.
I thought it was a cool reveal at the end. Do you agree? Yeah. Whenever she kisses him and brings him back, I thought that was cool.
Yeah,
I just felt like that didn't come out of nowhere, but that was just kind of like.
Well, at first, my first thoughts were I'm like, if this is one of those true love things where true love beats everything, I'm going to throw a fit.
Yeah.
You mean like in Interstellar?
Yeah. Hey, that's different.
I know. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
But then I thought, I'm like, then it has to do with the prophecy and stuff. And this was all foretold that this is how it had to be. And so I'm like, then that kind of saves it from that. But at first instinct, not seeing the movie in 10 years, it's like I said, I'm like, if this is true love beats all, then I'm gonna throw something through a window.
And the fact that she had experience with the Oracle and everything that she'd ever heard had come true, except for one thing that we didn't know what it was until the end, right?
Yeah.
I thought that was a really cool setup and a really cool way to get you kind of hooked on to whatever that was, and you're kind
Yeah.
of thinking about that the whole time. That was really cool. I don't know. I just felt like her character was just kind of like a meh.
Yep.
I liked the other guys. I liked Tank and I liked Dozer.
Dozer.
Those were
They were
cool.
cool.
They were cool.
Yep.
But like I said, I don't know. For me, it's not necessarily the movie's fault that the characters were weaker. It was more because I think the setup and the idea was so strong.
Yeah.
I can see that.
That everything else was just kind of like,
I can definitely see that. So the other two that are left are, and you guys definitely talked about Agent Smith, and I agree 100%.
he was awesome.
Was
Whenever he was on
amazing.
screen, I was like, let's go.
Crap's
Like,
about to get real.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah, for sure.
The last character, and we don't have to talk much about, is the Oracle. Like, what were
Yeah.
your guys' thoughts on her? I'm interested.
I liked her. I thought it was interesting how they walked through the house, and you're like, oh, no, and you never knew like I thought it was going to be one of those people.
Oh,
first.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like, oh, that's the Oracle. No, that's the Oracle. And then it was like this lady in the back, and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I don't know if they did it on purpose. I guess maybe not. But I thought that was interesting.
I liked her. It's like she's just kind of like the mom and stuff.
Yeah,
but,
she was just like a normal.
yeah.
Like I was waiting for them to like climb the mountain and her be sitting there like, no.
Yeah, no.
But it
it's-
was like just a chill, like cool old lady. I guess I don't
There's a
know.
bunch
And
of
then-
other kids that were like
Yeah.
force sensitive or whatever it was.
well,
bending
they were
the
other
spoons.
potentials. Like
spoons.
Yeah.
they didn't know who the one was, so any of those kids
Could have been.
So they were looking for. But
There is no spoon.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's a whole all of that stuff was there because he still wasn't believing.
Mm-hmm.
That
Right.
was another big part of the movie that Morpheus
Right.
said early on. You have to believe.
You have
Yeah.
to walk through the door. I can take you to the door. You have to be the one to walk through
Yep.
it.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I liked Oracle. I think that was a really cool idea. I'm glad they didn't make her a big deal. I'm glad that she was like a big deal off screen, like
Yeah.
them talking about
Yeah.
her and what she said, but her like not actually having that much
She was
screen time.
like a plot driver in a way. Like
Yeah,
her
for sure.
tellings were what kind of drove the plot in a way.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
one
she
of
was
my
kind of like the
favorite
Emperor
characters.
Palpatine role
Yeah.
in those early Star Wars movies where he's there and around and he kind of affects the story, but he's not a huge part of the story in that kind of way. I don't know.
I loved a lot of her dialogue in like the comedic relief of like, and don't worry about the vase. And he's like,
Before,
what vase?
yeah, before he hits it. Yeah.
And
yeah.
but I love the line of what's really gonna bake your noodle later on is would you have broken it if I hadn't said anything?
Yeah.
And I just when I first heard that I was like,
There's several, there's several lines
my
like
gosh.
that. Yeah, several times
But-
they say things. I'm just like, well,
yeah,
I guess.
So
Yeah.
I don't want to think about that too much right now. 'Cause- yeah.
So,
So character for me was a little low. I'm glad.
Hey, man.
I'm glad you like it because you love this movie. So
yeah, like I said, I'm gonna be biased.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Which
you
is
guys
great.
might be a little more
super great.
grounded.
It was my only low section. So
Plot for me, I gave it an 8 out of 10. I thought the development of the plot was really cool. How they give you little nuggets and pieces, and they didn't
Yeah.
overwhelm you.
Yeah.
Almost like you were Neo, like the audience is Neo, basically the whole movie.
Yeah.
Like we're learning as he's learning. I thought they did that really, really well. I thought the bodies inside of like the pod things, like
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
warehouses, and they're like growing people like in the fields, and like that was messed up, but really cool. And so I think that development was really cool. And then obviously like him taking the pill and like all of those developments they felt natural the whole time. Like nothing ever felt like, well, like what the heck. And so I thought that was really cool. To me, I was waiting for like a really big, I don't know, like reveal or twist or something at the end, because that movie just felt like it had to have like a, kind of moment, and it never really had that kind of moment.
You don't think
But-
where he died was a moment?
yeah.
For me, it was because like he was the chosen one and he had to come back.
Well, then they set it
I
up to
don't know.
where like they start saying like, oh, he's not the chosen
I guess
one
that-
or whatever.
I
They
guess
start-
that
they start
was-
doing that.
When I first saw it, that was a big one for me. I was
Really?
like, oh crap,
I could
he died.
I could see that, but like I don't know. I always just knew in the back of my mind he was going to save the day, and it was going to.
well, because
Because there's movies too. Yeah, there's two
Well,
or three.
that is true.
I'm seeing
You-
it on the wrong side of it.
That is
so I
true.
knew he was going to be around, but so yeah, for me, I guess first time seeing it in the theater in 1999, then yeah, for sure that would have been like a big. So yeah, I guess.
Okay, I got you.
I loved the climax. Loved the climax for
I
the
got you.
plot. I thought that was awesome. I thought him coming back and catching the bullets in midair and like just letting
Yeah.
them fall to the ground and just like beating the crap out of that guy.
No.
I thought that was awesome.
Like him fully realizing, like believing or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the resolution at the very end, whenever he kind of has that voiceover, he talks about like the future and whatever. Like I thought that was
flies
cool.
off into the sky.
The flying thing for me was a little
That is an iffy part.
was a little too much.
But
the end was cool. I thought like they tied it together, but they also left it open ended. So I thought they did a good job as far as the plot goes. I think there could have been a couple of different things potentially going on, or I don't know, maybe some twists here and there, or some big reveals here and there. I don't know. But I guess it was a lot about like you were revealing information constantly throughout the movie, so you didn't want to overload it too much. So I see that. I think an 8 out of 10 is pretty fair.
Well, I was like,
What'd you give it? Like,
I give it an 8. As like simple to me, the plot was very simple, but the Matrix is such a complex thing.
Yeah.
Like to me, this movie just like dipped our toes into it, and I think that's why I liked it so much. I've said this before about another movie, Remove, but I like, I'm all about like the big complicated plots where you have to sit there and like extremely pay attention. But for me at least, this one it just came naturally. And I think I really liked it because of that, because it's such a complex thing put into such a neatly like put together package for you to understand. And so I think they, like you said, everything did well, everything meant something, everything was essentially there for a reason. And I think I rated it an 8. Actually, I'm going to change it to a 9 now that I'm thinking about it. But
yeah.
nice.
Yeah, you are.
But I don't know. It's just, I think that's why it's such a classic movie. And I think that's why it's so big in our lifetimes. That's something that people reference probably, all the time. Just I was about to say daily, but I'm like, I don't reference the Matrix daily. But
I've never seen The Matrix before, and I've referenced The Matrix.
Yeah. And so
like that's that big of a presence in our culture. Yeah.
And just, I think him being the hero is something that has been done before and has consistently been done. But I think this was a different take on him kind of realizing it.
Yeah.
And
him choosing it. I think Paul's been talking about the choice thing a lot, and I think that's a huge part of the movie. And I think that's a huge part of his character is him actually choosing to take that path.
Because I think he kind of struggles throughout the movie. Like it seems like he struggles with these choices, and then towards the end, it's like this is just like.
Well, and there's goods and bads of both. Like there's like he has fun because he's chosen this path. He also like suffers because of this path.
Well, it's like Cypher's the middle bad guy, right? It's like him because he wanted to go back into the Matrix,
right.
And it's just like you see people struggle with that, and then
they want to have like the reality that seems better, but isn't necessarily better.
Isn't real.
But what was kind of weird
yeah.
for me is like because the AI is growing the humans to then use them as fuel, right?
Yep.
And so eventually, whenever they use you as fuel, so your consciousness is gone, right? So you wouldn't be in the Matrix; it would just like stop, right?
I guess you're just not
Ask
there
that
anymore.
again.
I guess they're just not there anymore.
So whenever they're growing you, you're in
Yeah.
the Matrix, you're experiencing all this stuff. But then whenever they decide to use you as fuel, are you not using the Matrix anymore? Is your conscious still in the Matrix, or is your conscious gone with your body?
It is. Yeah. So, and that part of it maybe isn't explained very well. There's another thing out there called the Animatrix, and it's a bunch of little mini stories. I don't really recommend watching them all, but if you really want to dive into a lot of it, there's one clip, however you want to call it. I think it's like 20 minutes long, maybe a little longer, but it actually goes into like the history of like when the AI like took over, and I can't remember exactly because I meant to watch it before doing this episode, but I didn't. It seems like to get them be used as actual fuel, they have to be like not like just vegetables.
Right.
They have to be like their brain has to be functioning.
Yeah.
And so that's why they are put into a program of life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
One of my favorite little snippets of the movie is the deja vu.
Oh yeah.
With the
How
cat.
that's like how deja vu is like a glitch.
Yeah.
It's like, well, we all experience deja vu all the time, and so it's like, what is actually happening when that happens?
Right. They changed something in the Matrix.
Yeah, it's like, oh my gosh.
I used to say that all the time.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. What'd you give it? 10 out of 10?
Yeah.
Yeah, I figured.
There's only one section that I did not give a 10.
But it's the next one. Be my guess.
Is the next
yeah.
one.
So you have anything else to say on plot? I know we just talked about
No,
it. But
yeah. I mean, there's not much that I haven't already said. I just think it starts off at a point where you're just like, what the crap is going on?
Yeah.
And it just goes and goes and goes. And you're like, I can definitely see at the end of it being like, man, what just happened?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. There's something about it for me, even as like at the, how old was I when I first saw this movie? I was probably
10-ish.
Because I did not see it when it first came out.
Right.
I probably saw it around like 2004.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe about 15 years ago. And yeah, I mean,
Dang.
I was just like, oh man, I don't know, but something about it just caught me instantly.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Conflict, tension, urgency. I gave this section a 7. I think the conflict was awesome because of the external conflict. Obviously, he's like risking his life all the time. They all are. And then I thought the internal conflict was incredible. Obviously, Neo has to choose his path constantly, and he has to choose whether he wants to potentially die or potentially allow Morpheus to die. Mm-hmm. So I think that's awesome. The tension for me was solid. Wasn't great. Whenever Smith is on screen, I thought the tension ratcheted up for sure. And then I thought the urgency for me was the weakest of the three. There was a little bit of urgency there at the end whenever they're trying to
save Morpheus.
Right. But other than that, the urgency there wasn't like, I don't know. There wasn't like an explosion that's going to happen at this moment of time. Or there wasn't a midnight until, like there wasn't, you have to do this before midnight or whatever. Right. There wasn't a ticking clock. There wasn't any kind of
really the robots urgency. Getting there through the
urgency
tunnels or whatever.
At the very end, whenever they're trying to save Morpheus and the Sentinels or whatever those things are called.
Sentinels.
Those things are coming and they're like in the real world, they're chasing them down and they're trying to break through the ship and whatever. Mm-hmm. Like that was cool. But what I'm saying is like over the 2.5 hour movie, it was very minimal. So that's why I kind of knocked it a few points. But I definitely loved the conflict in this movie. I thought it was really good, really well done. What'd you give it?
I give it an 8. For me, there was a lot of conflicts, tension, urgency, like throughout the whole thing. Like every task they did, it felt like they needed to get it done.
Right.
To me, like I felt like there was like a sense like we got to do this. Like we got to get Neo out of this, out of the Matrix. We got to get Neo trained. We got to get Neo to the Oracle. We got to get Neo.
Getting to the Oracle, that was a good scene. Whenever they had to get him through there to And
then whenever they catch Morpheus or whatever after they experience the second black cat or the 2 black cats and stuff, like there was a lot of tension there because I couldn't remember like how. Because it had been so long, I couldn't remember what the tension was or like the conflict for the end of the movie, and it was like them catching Morpheus. So I didn't know. For me, there was a lot of
torturing him, right?
Like tension there, or not urgency, tension maybe. Because I thought they all escaped, and I just thought at the end they were just fighting Agent Smith, but I was wrong. I don't know. So for me, at the end, like again, when the robots were coming in, that was a lot of tension and urgency. And then whenever they kill, or you think they kill, was it Dozer or is it
Tank?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was like, for some reason he was one of my favorite characters.
Like, he's good. I like both of them. Yeah, they're both cool.
But I don't know. I gave it an 8 because I felt there was one of those 3 categories throughout the whole movie. Mm-hmm. And like, because even at the beginning, they start out with her like trying to tell Neo like or whatever, like we need you and all that, and she's having to run from the agents. And I think there was a piece of that throughout the whole thing. So I think that continuous use of conflicts, tension, and urgency is what gave it an 8 for me.
Yeah,
solid.
So I gave the section an 8, and my main thinking on this was there's everything at the beginning,
right,
and everything at the end,
right.
But there's the middle section where they first bring him into the real world and train him and things like that. That there is a little bit of a sense of it, but it lacks.
Mm-hmm. It's a little slow.
It's a little, as far as this section goes. Mm-hmm. There's obviously a ton of character development and plot points and things like that. But in this section, and I really tried to not give this movie a 50. Mm-hmm. So this was the section I felt like I could take some points away from and be okay with myself.
Yeah. Nice.
So yeah, because I mean, like I said, the section where he's being reborn, or actually, like, because there's the part where they say, "Oh yeah, you've never used your eyes before," and so like that was just a big like,
that was also crazy.
But So like that whole from there until they go to see the Oracle, not a whole lot there for me. But yeah, I
Solid.
totally echo everything you guys said from the beginning where Trinity's run. Anytime they're actually in the Matrix, I mean, I can make an argument for there's a conflict there because any person is an agent.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
So-
and anyone who dies in the Matrix dies in real life. So
Yep.
they showed that several times early on, and that kind of builds the tension whenever they're in those scenes. I agree. I think that section was solid. I think for the reasons I said earlier, I think it's a little below a 10, but I think
I
it's
agree.
good.
So
Cinematic
last section.
elements. I gave this one a 7. I know you're probably gonna give it a 10, but I was probably a little unfair because I'm viewing it in 2019 and it was made in the 90s.
Yeah.
And so it's probably unfair of me to judge it as harshly as I did. I think some of the scenes were awesome. The bullet scenes,
Yeah.
some of those fight scenes were incredible. Some of the kung fu stuff that they're doing. Well, it's probably not kung fu, but whatever.
no, it was.
It was kung fu. But some of those fight scenes with him and Fishburne together were awesome. Him and Morpheus together was awesome. So I think some of those scenes were really, really cool. There were several moments where the cinematography was really cool. There's several shots that were for me really interesting and just kind of the things they choose to like look at and focus on and draw attention to. As far as like the CGI and the effects and the stunts and whatever, like obviously it's a little down compared to what we're used to with Marvel and Star Wars.
Full green
and
screen movie.
People
that is
spending
in-
hundreds of millions of dollars on computers and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think that's a little down, but like I said, that's probably unfair of me to even judge that section that way. And then as far as the score of the movie goes, like the soundtrack and things, it was okay. I did not like it, but it wasn't anything for me. It wasn't spectacular. So
Yeah.
I probably took a point off for that too.
Okay.
I thought it was interesting. I think, like I said, I think it was a revolutionary movie for its time. So for that reason, I should probably bump it up a little bit. But
Yeah.
I probably don't appreciate it as much now because it's been out for so long.
Yeah, I gave it a 8. So again, I think it was definitely ahead of its time for where it's at. Like you said, the bullets effects were like incredible.
Well, and like Paul said earlier, like people still use that technology
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
kind of shot all the time. So that's really cool.
I like the soundtrack was good. The sound mixing was good. You said it won an Oscar for editing, and like
Yeah.
you could definitely tell in there was no mistakes in it at all. Like I
way
mean,
they
in some
cut it.
movies you can tell. Like there's, and have either of you seen Bohemian Rhapsody? So there's a scene in there where who's the lead singer? Queen, I feel Freddie Mercury. Where he's talking to a guy, and they do like 5 cuts within like 3 seconds, and you're like,
Oh, gosh.
what is going on? And this movie was so like clean cut,
Yeah.
which was very enjoyable. I think where I docked it was a lot of the stuff where they used wires wasn't very good.
Yeah,
And
they did. I agree. I probably should have docked a point for that if I was being picky. But there are like where they're doing some flips and things like that. You
Yeah.
can still see the wires.
Like I think they could have done better. Like the use of them was cool and stuff. Like they were doing really cool stuff. But I think you can do better when you're using wires. Make it not look as bad as it did. And so that's why I docked it. Everything else in there was good. Like I had to sit down and think like, all right, think I'm watching this in 1999. Like what is it like? And of course it was awesome, but I mean, you could, I think still in 1999, you're like, oh, they're obviously on like using wires.
Yeah.
So I think there's better ways to conceal that and make it look like you're a little bit more smooth. Like there's a scene at the very beginning where Trinity's on the computer and then the agents walk in. She does that like wall run kind of thing. And you're like, what is going on? And she's like, does the whole like floats up. That stuff was very obvious. And then some of the stuff when they were shooting around the pillars at the very end was pretty obviously. And I think there's a scene in the second one at the very beginning where it's obviously wires, where he's fighting all the Agent Smiths.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. As cool as that is.
Yeah, so if we, again, let us know on Instagram if you want us to do 2 and 3. I'm hesitant to do them, even though I do enjoy them. That is a section where I can easily make this movie not as high a score as this one is in. The CGI was, for being a 2004 or something, yeah, it's pretty rough. So We'll get into that
And
if we do later.
So
But
you gave the first Matrix a 10 out of 10 in
Yes.
this section.
yeah, in this section, I gave
Yeah.
it a 10. Yes, I do agree. There are those moments. I probably should have doctored a point for that. But again, I'm not because of the time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I can
for
make
sure.
an argument for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. And
but
if you
the-
compare it to other movies in that era, it's probably going to be above average, if not
Yeah.
much better.
Like even Star Wars Episode 1, you can
Yeah,
tell sometimes
sure.
like they're using wires and
For
stuff.
sure.
Some of
Right.
it was not awesome. I
sure.
mean, of course, they're very CGI heavy movies, but
Yeah.
For sure.
But I mean, I love the same things that you guys said: the cinematography, the clean cuts, the shots, the focusing on really little things that you don't think about, like the clocks or the phones or the whatever, but being actually really important. Were really cool for me. I actually really enjoy the soundtrack because the actual score soundtrack to me adds a ton of tension to the moments. And then like the music artists, like the more techno soundtrack stuff, I loved. I have all of those soundtracks
Right.
at home. I love them. I thought this was a really well written, just all around.
The writing was really interesting, and I can't imagine how much fun it would have been to write this movie. Like sitting in the writer's room and just like actually writing it down.
Totally.
I think that would have been so much fun. I'm actually really excited for Matrix 4 because it's going to be, hopefully, it'll be a good Matrix movie in our
with today's
era, with art.
technology.
Can you imagine them making this movie in 2019 with the
Right.
technology that they just used for Endgame or whatever? Like,
Right.
that would be awesome. So
Yeah.
I think that'll be really fun to watch whenever that comes
I do
out.
have another comment about cinematic elements. So there's a scene where they're about to open a door, and it's a gold doorknob, and you're seeing the reflection of both of them. And then I know what I'm talking about, but you can see there's a camera in that shot if you look closely enough, and they're trying to make it look like Morpheus's tie, right?
Yeah.
And you can, if you stop it and look, you can actually see the camera, which I applaud them because they have a bunch of shots like that, like looking into each other's glasses. Like you see the reflections of them a lot and stuff, and like that was really the only scene where like something was like
They actually
amiss.
missed it. Mm-hmm.
And so I mean, I
Even though
applaud
they
them.
tried to cover it up, but they just couldn't get it
I
done.
think that's super creative. I wouldn't dock them for anything like that. I appreciate the fact that they tried, and that's something that they would include in the movie because you don't see that a whole lot, and I think that's that's something that's valuable in today's cinematic world.
Well, I love the scene, and you just hit it a little bit, where he's choosing the pills, and you see in it, in his shot or in his glasses, you see, and I love, and I'm sure they shot it and just edited it all together, but I love how when he reaches, in one you see his hand, and in the other one you don't see his hand at all, even though you can tell he's moved. I just like when I first watched that, and even every time I watch it, I'm just like, that's so awesome that how they edit it. And it doesn't, to me, it doesn't look cheesy. Like there are scenes in the second one where I'm like, this looks horrible.
Yeah.
But where in this movie, I can't say there's one time, other than I do agree with the wires thing, that I can say that I say this looks stupid or cheesy or whatever. I just think it looks
So for me, that's a total score of 38, which is roughly, a 76 out of 100, which is about where Metacritic was at.
Yeah.
73, I think is what they were at. Which is probably, honestly, a little low. And if I watch it again, it'd probably be up in the 80s somewhere for me. So, Luke, I know Paul's at 48, but what'd you get?
For me, it's a 41. So was it like a low 80?
82,
82.
Yeah.
8.2 out of 10, something like that.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty good
solid
score for my second viewing in a long time. I think it's higher than what I originally thought it would be. But yeah, no, I think that's pretty true to what I think.
Yep.
And then 48?
Yep, 48. So that's a 96.
96. That's awesome. That's so
It's
good.
the highest movie that I've rated that we've done on the podcast.
Yeah.
I think the highest movie I've done is Interstellar. I think it was a 48. And that was,
Yeah,
it's
and
tough to
and
rank
it was funny after watching Interstellar, I listened to the podcast, and you guys did the same thing I did. Of like, I had to dock point somewhere, or I would have made it a 50 out of 50.
Yep.
So
Yep.
hey, everybody's different.
I think
It
my
think-
highest was Whiplash.
Yeah. Whiplash is pretty high
was a
for
good
me, too.
movie, man.
So for me, this is probably a tier 2 movie. For y'all, it's probably for Paul, it's definitely tier 1. Luke, I'm interested.
This
Tier
is
1, tier 2?
Probably a high tier 2, low tier 1.
Top 50, top 75.
Probably definitely top 50.
Mm-hmm. For me, it's probably, I don't know, I need to watch it again. It's probably up there, top 75, top 100, and then potentially buy it and own it and watch it every once in a while kind of movie. So I liked it. If you've never seen it before, I don't know why. I guess you're still listening, but we kind of ruined it for you.
You should have seen this movie.
But,
You should.
but yeah, it was good. I actually was pleasantly surprised by this movie, and I am actually genuinely interested in going and seeing it in the theater. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
To kind of have a different experience with it. Yeah. Paul, did you write down any meta questions or anything?
I did, and I probably wrote down too many, so I'm not going to get into probably all of them, even though we actually are doing pretty well on time.
Yeah.
So the first one I have is kind of a funny one, because I wanted it when I was this age. What do you guys think of the cell phones that they had?
Yeah, that's pretty funny. I love watching like late 90s, early 2000s movies and shows because they have like the really cool, like serious scenes and they're like on their razor and you're like, come on, man.
Well, I don't know. I thought
was pretty cool.
I really enjoyed them, and they changed in the second and third one. And you could actually, at the time, you could buy the same phones that they had in the second one. But I loved that. It was like a flip phone, but you had a little button. I thought they were really cool.
That's cool.
I love seeing old phones, and it's like I like knowing.
The sunglasses
that's the
too. The
time
sunglasses
that we're
are like way
experiencing.
out of date, way out of style, but they were like really cool and trendy.
Like that's for me. That's part of it. Like that's just one of the cinematic elements. Is just
cool.
making things feel like it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm going to skip that one because we actually talked about it. And we talked a little bit about this one, but for me, this was a big thing, especially as a younger kid watching this. I think I was probably 15 at the time. Did this movie actually make you question reality?
A little bit. Like you know it's fiction. But then you sit there and you're like, man, isn't that just crazy? Like what? Like actually, like what if?
Yeah.
We're in a matrix.
For me, no, but there were definitely moments where I was like, I know that this is not, but like they did such a good job. Like I said, the deja vu thing.
Yeah.
Like to me, that was when I was like, dang. For me, The Truman Show, which is probably honestly because I watched it when I was younger, but The Truman Show, whenever I finished that movie, I was like looking for cameras everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. So like that for me was more of a what if kind of thing than this movie, just because it was a little bit more realistic, even though this idea was awesome. I think if I were like 10 or whatever, however old you were, I would for sure be like, Mom.
yeah. But yeah, no, I agree. I felt the same way with The Truman Show of like, oh crap.
I was probably like 13, 14 whenever I watched Truman Show, and I was like,
that's another great movie that we might have to do.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that was pretty cool. I think they did several things like that, and they were like, well, I guess.
I think it's fun to question it. It's fun to be like, what's
my philosophy professor in class, first day, he walks in and goes, what is real? And people start saying like, me, the desk, the chair, and he's like, how do you prove it? And we're all and he's like, yeah, I don't know.
Exactly.
I also had a professor who ended every email in college with there is no spoon. Like literally
hilarious.
Every single email I ever received from him in college, the end of the email just says P.S. there is no spoon. And for years I've always been like, what the crap is he talking about? And when we watched this movie I was like, no spoon. Just light bulb just went off, and I was like, "This guy, the friggin' nerd, just keeps talking about the Matrix."
Well,
yeah, it's pretty funny.
And it's funny, that is a big thing about this movie too, is that it did influence a ton of other things in a ton of other ways that you will probably never notice, but next time you watch one of them, you'll be like, oh snap.
Yeah.
Like one of the biggest ones that I still see all the time, and they actually, a different one I'll talk about in a second, is where they're fighting and Morpheus puts out his hand and does a little like the way. Like you see that all the time still.
Right.
And that's where it's from. That's one of the craziest things to me.
That's awesome.
But one of the things that they actually just watched the third John Wick, and they threw in a line from a Keanu line from this movie, where they're like, they go down, there's, the big fights coming at the end, where they're like, what do you need? And he goes, guns. Lots of guns. And I was like, yeah! I was like, oh my God.
That's awesome.
But, so yeah.
That's awesome.
So another thing that we didn't really talk about that seems to be, because I tried to look up some actually intelligent questions for this movie, because a lot of it seems pretty intellectual, what did you think about some of the actual like religious tones for this movie?
I like that.
Like, whereas a lot of people, obviously you can make a pretty well analogy to, Neo being like the Christ figure, the Oracle being kind of the quote unquote God figure. I mean, they've got Trinity as a name in there. So like, what do you think about all of that kind of stuff?
I think it's cool. I loved it. Like, I mean, I definitely caught those undertones or whatever throughout it, but like, man, I was all for it, because I think it's turning like the story of like the gospel or whatever and just making it cool. Like,
I think for whatever reason, whether you're a Christian or not, I think that storyline is really powerful, of the Messiah, chosen one, like savior archetype. I think that archetype is really, really powerful. And so I think whether you're, like I said, whether you're a Christian or not, or religious or not, I think people respond, massive amounts of people across our country and across the world respond to that type of storyline.
Yeah.
And so whether, like I said, I think whether it's The Matrix or Star Wars or even Avengers, like those kinds of storylines are so popular because we all relate to that on a human, just a basic human level. And so I think, I don't know anything about the Wachowski brothers or whatever, however you say their name.
Sisters.
Wachowski, yeah.
Sisters, yeah. I don't know anything about them, if they're religious or not, but I think that was a really cool like thing that they did to even make it more relatable than it already was. And then the Oracle character, I think we see that a lot in a lot of different films. That was kind of an interesting take of having them like be like a normal person and not be like this like mysterious, like magical thing.
Right.
But yeah, I think that was a really cool storyline that they chose to tell inside of a really cool sci-fi movie. So I think that was a really smart move on their part in telling that type of story, because like you said, like Neo is the Christ figure, and Christ is obviously one of the most impactful people ever, even though you might not believe in him or whatever. Like, that type of person changes the world and changes the way we view ourselves and we view other people. And so I think that was really, really cool for them to use that storyline. And then obviously Morpheus is kind of the mentor character, and I think he kind of represents that character really, really well in the movie. And I'm interested to see how he kind of develops in second and third movie. I don't know how well they do with that, but I think that could be a really interesting something that they even use in the next couple movies. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
no, I think in the end, it's just it's a good story to be able to retell in different ways. Not like the Christianity version or whatever, but just like the story in general. Like it's the idea of it is so cool. And so I think using that in movies and using that in books and whatnot is.
Yeah,
I mean, if it makes sense, it's a good move.
You see the same thing in Lord of the Rings with Frodo, right? Frodo is the suffering hero who takes the ring and destroys it forever. You know, Harry Potter is the chosen one who rises up and defeats Voldemort, right? Yeah. So you see that archetype all the time. I think that was really cool that they chose to use that.
Yeah.
What's your
cool.
Any more questions?
Let's see.
Probably like 25.
No, I'm close to the end because I skipped a few.
Okay.
So, we kind of talked about, Neo and Oracle. Were there some other characters that I may have missed that you felt like had a maybe parallel character in, say, a Christian story? Like,
I think Agent
Smith, like the devil. Like,
I don't know. I wouldn't say the devil necessarily, but the fact that he can like kind of move everywhere and do different things, and I don't know. I wouldn't say that Satan, like he's not necessarily as like satanic as like Sauron is, or characters like Voldemort.
Yeah.
But I think he's kind of an embodiment of the evil AI a little bit.
Yeah,
and he can kind of teleport and do different things.
Yeah. I actually don't have a good answer for some of these, so I'm actually more interested to hear what you guys kind of take on it. So, and if you can't think of anything, it's fine.
That's great.
I mean, I guess just like all the supporting characters, on the good side, you see them more as like disciples and stuff, kind of.
Yeah, and they're kind of part of the team. They don't really have a huge role, but they're there. Yeah, I can see that a little bit. Well, cool. They're all hoping for Neo to be the one.
Yeah,
and they're kind of placing their faith in him.
Yeah,
it's interesting because even several of them like believe in them, and several of them don't. I guess one of them doesn't, and then they all are like kind of flaky.
Yeah,
all except for I guess Trinity, but Yeah, I think it's interesting that
How they did that.
No, how they took that.
Yeah.
And they took that really, like, they could have just been like a really soft undertone, and they actually made that a really big part of the story.
Yeah. Well, cool. Yeah, that's all I've got. So
Nice.
Yeah, so let us know your thoughts on this episode and any other episode you've watched or listened to. If you want us to do more Matrix, let us know. If not, we're going to try to move on with some other stuff. Got a couple movies coming up, and then The Joker comes out in October, and I know we're all pumped for that. So
Definitely.
What's our next movie?
That's kind of our next big episode. But
Yeah. If we don't do The Matrix,
we're
Yeah.
going to do a movie called The Stanford Prison Experiment. It's on Netflix. It's all based on a true story. In the 70s or 80s, there was a professor who wanted to do an experiment on the prison system in the U.S., basically talking about police brutality and how it's inhumane for us to treat fellow humans the way we treat them in prison.
Yeah.
And so he wanted to perform this experiment on campus with college students who were free in the summer and needed a little bit of money. And so he paid them a little bit of money to be his experiment. And half of them are guards and half of them are inmates. And he basically tells the guards that there are no rules. And so very, very quickly, it kind of becomes like the Lord of the Flies dynamic where people start abusing their power and loving power and wanting more power, and it just gets out of hand. And the professor literally is like, doesn't know what to do, and his only answer is to just let it go until it like figures itself out, basically. And the movie is awesome. It's one of the.
So it's a movie, not a
Yeah, I
documentary.
didn't say
we're
so.
watching.
It is a movie. Yeah, it's a movie based on the real
fact?
events.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, it's a historical movie
Where can people find this movie?
on Netflix.
Okay.
Yeah, on Netflix if you want to watch it. It's
Interesting.
great. It's one of my favorite historical movies of kind of the modern, like since the 50s, 60s,
Yeah.
70s, somewhere in there. I think it's
Cool.
it's really good. I'm really excited
So
to
that's
hear
what
y'all's
we're
thoughts.
tentatively doing.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to watch next, unless you guys come
Yeah.
back online and tell us to watch Matrix again.
Yeah.
Or Matrix 2 and 3.
Yeah, please do give us a follow there again on Instagram. I know we also have a Facebook page. We'll probably be a little bit more active on Instagram, but that Facebook page is still there, so still a way you can reach out to us. And then the YouTube channel, obviously. I know a lot of people love to comment there, so I'm sure we'll see some there. But again, if you are a fan of the other Matrix movies and want us to do Reloaded and Revolution, give us a message, and we will definitely do it. So
Is that all we got?
That's all I,
I think
got.
that's
All
it.
right. Well, thank you for listening to the episode 18. I don't think I said that earlier, but episode 18 on The Matrix, and we'll catch you next time.
All right, whenever you're ready.
3, 2, 1.
I was like, oh, God.
All right, 3.
Okay.
Welcome to the movie where we're going to talk about this, my top 5, and this. The Matrix was a good movie, alright, we'll catch you next time.
And
Alright, AJ, get out of here.